Today we have an interesting collaboration between HyperX and Ducky. To be honest, I didn't expect this at all, I don't think anyone did. But we know that the Ducky One Mini is an immensely popular keyboard, but with this version we have the new HyperX Keyswitches, which I actually checked out in my previous video. As this is nearly the same as the normal version, I won't go fully in depth with everything because I already did in the original review, but we'll see whether it's worth getting this one over the normal one. So first impressions, as expected, it's just like the normal Ducky One Mini, but with a shiny red plastic bottom. And yeah, that's the main aesthetic difference, that bright HyperX red, which makes it stand out quite different. So it still has the same two-tone plastic enclosure design. I did like the design before, and I still keep that opinion because usually what we see with plastic 60% keyboards is the same old aesthetic because yeah, there isn't a whole lot that you can do. And I think the satin black works perfectly with the red. Being shiny plastic, it does pick up fingerprints, not that it really matters too much for the bottom. And on the bottom we have a nice metal info plate. Apparently it's a limited edition board with 3,700 made, so that's cool, a little exclusivity. And there's a couple of rubber feet and two-stage flip-up feet that are also nicely rubber tipped. And we also have the dip switches to control the Windows keys and key rollover and stuff like that. As said, this is a 60% keyboard, so we just have that main area of the board, so no dedicated function row, arrow keys, numpad, nav keys, etc. So everything is accessible in different layers, and much of that is printed on the front of the keycaps. The keycaps, by the way, look great, especially for backlit caps. There's clean and simple legends, and there's no gaps being seamless, which is also an indication of a legitimate Ducky product. As you may know, there are fake Ducky boards out there, and I'll link the statement in the description, so watch out for those. These are about 1.2mm thick double shot PBT keycap, so the legend is another piece of plastic and won't fade away. Plus being PBT, they won't shine over time, so nice and durable. And the RGB backlighting is bright as ever, maybe even brighter looking. Unfortunately, I don't have the standard Ducky One Mini with me, but usually for RGB key switches we have SMD LEDs that sit under the switches. However, because we have the HyperX key switches, which don't accommodate for SMD LEDs, we have through-hole LEDs instead, which come out the top of the switch, and together with a white mounting plate, it's a very vibrant and bright board. And the Year of the Rat spacebar looks really good, super crisp, and the whole thing lights up beautifully. There are 3 RGB LEDs, so 2 SMD and 1 with a key switch, so no weird unevenness. However, those 2 SMD LEDs shine through the case, which bothers me, but if I could be stuffed, I could put something on the inside. Alright, so far it's much of the same, but of course the main difference is the key switches. The standard version of course comes with Cherry MX switches, however, especially as of late, there's so many other switch options that are potentially better for you. And I explained that in a video about switch alternatives and how Cherry MX aren't really the best. HyperX currently has 2 switches, the reds for linear and the Aqyas for tactile. Both are light with very similar specifications to Cherry MX Red and MX Brown, but with a slightly reduced total travel distance of 3.8mm rather than 4, and an actuation distance of 1.8mm rather than 2. And there's a boost to an 80 million keystroke lifespan, which is cool. In my previous video, I did like the reds, and with this board they're even better. They're some of the smoother stock switches out there in my opinion, quite a bit better than Cherry MX Red, maybe even smoother than some Gatorons. So yeah, pretty smooth for a stock switch, but what makes this feel better than the HyperX TKL is the higher quality keycaps on this, and just a more dense build. It's actually quite a satisfying typing experience for a retail mech. It's not super high pitched, which is very common in this market, and it has a deeper feel and sound with the bottom mount, which I think a lot of people will prefer, and it just feels more full. The stabilizers as well perform great, little to no rattle, although they could use a little bit of lube just to smoothen them out. I also have the full-sized HyperX Alloy Origins with the Aqya Tactile Keyswitches. It's a completely different board, so sound and feel won't be the same as if it were to be on the Mini, but here they are anyway. Again, a pretty smooth switch. It's definitely more tactile than MX Brown's. To be honest, I'm not the greatest with evaluating tactiles if I don't have stuff side by side, but just comparing them to boards I have around here, they feel great. The bump is right near the top and it feels to be pretty prominent and sharp to me. Again, they are a relatively light switch, so it's a little hard to compare, but the bump is clean, not as sharp and tactile as say a Holy Panda or T1. But I would love to eventually, well, if I could be bothered, to desolder these, lube them and chuck them into a nice board and see how they fare. Let's quickly open it up just because. There's just a couple of Phillips head screws under some caps and it comes out nice and easy. The case is pretty basic, a two-part plastic construction, and it has mounts on the bottom making it a tray mount design. The plate is made from 1.5mm steel, so nice and solid, and gives the keyboard most of its weight and rigidity. And here's the PCB. The main thing to look at are the switches, but more importantly the LEDs. As said before, these switches don't use SMD LEDs, as the bottom housings are an opaque red. So instead we have 4-pin RGB LEDs, which we don't see too often. And it's not really a negative, but it just means they're much more of a pain to desolder, which I want to do, but this takes away quite a bit of motivation. And that's the limited edition HyperX Ducky One 2 Mini. These two switches are the main defining factor on whether you get this over the normal one, and I can confidently say that these switches are smoother and just nicer than the Cherry MX options. And therefore, yes, this is the better option over the Cherry MX Red and Brown versions in my opinion. Of course, there's personal preference, but one aspect we can usually agree on is that smoother is nicer. And I guess the other feature is the bright red plastic bottom, but otherwise it's all pretty much the same. We get all the standard Ducky functionality with the onboard programmability and macros. The manual is the same, so it's basically the switches that are different. The 60% market is super competitive. There's a lot out there, even in the budget market. I think Hail switches are a great alternative with other boards, but what I feel with these HyperX switches, it just makes the 1-2 Mini more attractive to me and more recommendable, as I felt that just having Cherry MX switches limited it. So an interesting partnership here, and I think they made something pretty cool.